The uneven beating, a heart that still remembers you feel it, the restlessness, the lingering ache that pulses like an uneven heartbeat. You move forward, smile in the daylight, tick boxes of healing and growth. Yet when the world quiets, when dua spills from your lips in solitude, a name still floats through your soul like an echo refusing to die. The past calls, not to imprison, but to remind. A heart that still remembers is not a sign of weakness. It may be a sign of something deeper, something sacred that transcends the ordinary. Some connections aren't linear. They aren't clean breakups, easily tucked away like forgotten pages in a book. They leave threads, tangled and luminous, woven into your prayers and your pain. You might think it's over, but maybe Allah is whispering, not yet. That aching memory, the sudden dream, the name that shows up in unexpected places. These are not obsessions. They are echoes of a love written not just in time, but in the unseen. Divine pause, not rejection. We often mistake divine timing for denial. What we call misalignment, what we label as heartbreak, might simply be a pause crafted by divine wisdom, a sacred delay, not a punishment, but protection. When a heart loves too quickly or deeply without anchoring itself in Allah, that love can become a form of idolatry. It becomes easy to elevate a human soul above the Creator, to derive your sense of peace, worth, and identity from them. But Allah, in His mercy, interrupts that. He distances, not to break you, but to recenter you. A divine pause is not a death, it's a purification. Like gold in fire, love is tested and refined. Not every separation is an ending. Some are spiritual recalibrations, allowing love to evolve from desire into devotion. When distance is mercy, there are times when the removal of a person from your life is not loss, it's mercy. Sometimes in our desperation to hold on to love, we unknowingly replace Allah's centrality with another person's presence. And in those moments, the most merciful intervenes. He creates distance that feels like silence, absence that screams. He lets you grieve, not to punish, but to teach. In that emptiness, you rediscover the fullness of turning back to Him. What you perceived as abandonment was actually divine rescue. You cried for closure, but He gave you signs. You asked for detachment, but He offered remembrance. Because perhaps it wasn't over. Perhaps it was simply not ready. Echoes in the heart, signs beyond logic. There are moments when reality seems to blur, and you see signs beyond what logic allows. A name reappears in conversations. A dream revisits you with clarity. A stranger says something that mirrors your unspoken thoughts. You wonder, is this coincidence? Is this delusion? But faith teaches us that Allah speaks in ways not always seen or understood. He communicates through the heart, through dreams, through signs for those who reflect. These are not signs of obsession. They are divine echoes, reminders that what you once experienced wasn't merely emotional, it was spiritual. And what is spiritual does not fade easily. Some things are not meant to be over until they are spiritually complete. The human mind may forget, but the soul remembers. Not just emotion, a spiritually written connection. It is easy to love emotionally. Many can evoke butterflies or temporary joy, but only a few can bring you to your knees in prayer, cause tears to fall in sincere remembrance of Allah, and awaken a desire for spiritual growth. Such connections are not accidental. They are divinely orchestrated. These are the ones written in the Law al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, long before your paths crossed. It's not about chemistry. It's about Qadr, divine decree. This love is not rooted in fantasy. It is grounded in transformation. You are not distracted from Allah by it. You are drawn to Him through it. That is the mark of a connection that transcends emotion and enters the realm of the soul. Return by mercy, not desire. If there is to be a return, it won't come as a grand romantic gesture. It won't be driven by pride, desperation, or nostalgia. A sacred return is quiet, gentle, humble. It is not born of ego, but of mercy. Allah doesn't ask you to rewind the past. He asks if you're ready to build something new, with Him at the center. It is not your effort alone that creates return. It is your readiness. Are you rebuilt? Are you purified? Have you outgrown the wounds that once made you bleed into each other? Allah does not care what you've destroyed. He cares what you're prepared to repair, with sincerity and divine alignment. Steps to a sacred return. There are no shortcuts to spiritual reunions. They require groundwork, laid not in longing, but in worship. Tawbah, repentance. Begin with purification. Seek forgiveness for all that was done without divine purpose. Let your heart be cleansed before seeking to hold another's. Sabr, patience. Be actively patient. This is not passive waiting. It is trusting, improving, and surrendering to Allah's timeline. Tawakkul, trust. If this connection is meant, no distance or delay can prevent its return. If it's not, no effort can force its arrival. Either way, Allah protects your soul. Realign intention. Are you longing for them to fill a void or to fulfill a purpose? Is this return about you or about Allah? Anchor your love in the divine, not your ego. Don't force, prepare. You don't need to chase. You only need to become. If they too become who Allah wants them to be, the paths will naturally realign. When love becomes worship, love at its highest form is worship. It is no longer about what you feel, but about who you become with that person. True love doesn't diminish your light, it amplifies your faith. You don't just pray for them, you pray with them. You don't seek perfection, you grow through imperfection together. This love becomes a mission. You guard each other's ahira. You remind each other of Allah, of prayer, of humility. Your relationship doesn't distract, it directs. It doesn't isolate, it uplifts. When you love for Allah's sake, even flaws become reasons to grow, and hardships become opportunities for elevation. You become allies in the dunya and companions in the hereafter. And there is no greater intimacy than that. Sacred reunions. Our spirit-led, so ask yourself, do you want to relive the past or co-create a new future with Allah at the center? Do you want to rebuild what broke or begin what was always waiting, spiritually aligned and divinely supported? Sometimes what feels like an ending is simply a waiting room, a space between heartbreak and rebirth. You may not have been ready then, they may not have been purified yet. But if your heart still whispers their name in dua, not as obsession, but as sacred memory, then maybe it wasn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning you never knew how to pray for. A beginning rooted not in emotion, but in devotion. Not in fantasy, but in faith. A reunion not scripted by human will, but orchestrated by the most merciful. Final reflection. The heart doesn't forget what the soul was designed to remember. That uneven beating, the silent ache, the dream that repeats, the prayer that won't fade, it may all be part of Allah's design, not to torment you, but to guide you, to remind you that some stories are paused, not concluded. Some loves are dormant, not dead. Some connections are written in divine ink, waiting for the day when both souls return to each other, not out of desire, but out of alignment. So keep praying, keep growing. And if they're meant to be yours, not by your will, but by Allah's decree, then nothing in this world or the next can keep them from your heart. Because in the end, the heart that still remembers is not broken. It's simply waiting for the divine timing that makes all things new again.